Representative Rouson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And let me thank, first of all, my employer, the Dolman Law Group. They allow me the privilege and pleasure of practicing law, enforcing law back home, but then the public service of coming up here and creating, molding, shaping, debating law. And it truly is the best of both worlds. And let me thank the Speaker. During regular session, we didn't have a bill to debate. During special, the Senate sent its bill over. The Speaker allowed this discussion and debate to take place, and this is the place where debate, like Chair Metz said, is to take place. Yesterday, for the first time in my 7 years, 7 sessions, I was off the floor during what I perceived to be a critical time. And I was watching, streaming, emailing, texting my colleagues because I truly wanted to be here and be engaged in the debate. That's what they elected us for. But in addition to taking care of the professional business and the personal business, I had the opportunity to visit 2 emergency rooms yesterday. All Children's in St. Petersburg and Bayfront Hospital in St. Pete. I was in each of those emergency rooms a couple of times yesterday, and as I walked through them, I thought about the debate that was taking place up here. And Representative Jones, thank you for standing up and standing in the gap. It has been your subject and your lead in this caucus for a long time, and you've represented the people well. I have heard the analogy today of fish hook, that we are fish distracted by the bait only to get hooked by our federal partner. I've heard the prediction that the federal government will never approve this free market principled exchange. I've heard the Bible quoted, and Thomas Jefferson and Mark Twain and all the presidents almost, it seems, of the United States, and heard the word fraud and huge profits and waste and bloat and states' rights. Even the statement that Medicaid is a problem in this state. But what screams louder to me is that health care is a problem in this state. I heard that FIXH is autopilot on steroids, headed for a wreck. One rep said it may seem to be the right decision today, but he promises that it would be considered wrong in a few years. We were admonished to reject political expediency of today in favor of legacy for tomorrow. Well, I've heard the arguments. I've heard the analogies of going to the dance and about dancing partners, some pretty, some ugly, some exhilarating, some disappointing. Well, you know, I have my own dancing story. You know, April 15th of 2008, I was elected to one of the highest honors of my life, and that is to serve in this house. April 17th, I was sworn in on this floor. And a couple of days later, my lovely bride went and bought a dress, bought some new pumps, and traveled from St. Pete to Tallahassee, expecting that I would go to the dance with her, the black gala. But then the great Dan Gelber looked at Speaker Rubio and said, when quoting Janis Joplin, freedom is when you have nothing left to lose. Read every bill in its entirety. And slowly, I realized that my wife was going to have to go to the dance by herself. And the lesson that I learned is sometimes you just got to dance by yourself. And some of you know what I'm talking about. You know, Representative Cummings, I don't know about Jasmine, Representative Fullwood, I don't know, but sometimes I just danced by myself and had a good time. In all candor, I didn't want to debate this matter. I have determined that the healthcare experts on both sides are right. I will not quote then statistics. They right. In my rudimentary analysis of the rubric of affordable health care, I have determined that the prognosticators who predict doom or delightful destiny are right. They right. History will record this vote. It will recount and relate where each man or woman stood in these tough times. And therefore, I cannot afford to be silent on this issue. Silent, while some would argue, gives consent, but silence can also be considered ambiguous. And let me state for the record clearly, if I'm going to err, and if history will record at some point that this was wrong, I'm going to err on the side of voting for health care for my fellow human being. I just decided that I'm going to commit error on the side of voting to give health care. And I've heard people say, hey, it's a broken system. Well, my 10-speed was broke, but I wrote it. And it got me from A to B. And I tried to patch it up a few times, but it was better than nothing. And I've even heard the sponsor of this bill say, well, it's not perfect. It ain't perfect, but it's what we got. And it'll mean something to some of those people in the emergency rooms that I walked through yesterday. Yeah, it will mean something. How can we overwhelmingly, I think the vote was 112-1. How can we overwhelmingly vote for House Bill 7119, Senate Bill 7068, that mandates us to increase the eligibility pool for those who suffer from mental health and substance abuse, to draw down more Medicaid dollars for that population of people, and yet not take Medicaid dollars for another population of people? 112-1. In closing, see, when we debated Senate Bill 6, and then Representative Dwight Bullitt was slated to close, I said, I need to get out of the way because the bullet train is coming. And Representative McGee, you knocked the home run today. You laid it out. Representative Narain and Representative Williams, you spouted the statistics that don't have to be repeated. But I'm telling you, the Jacksonville Jones train is coming. And it's full steam ahead. That train is moving. And people of this state will get health care. And me, I don't envy your position. But sister, bring it home. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.